Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three Prakim Rambam, Hilchos Bikurim, Usha'ar, Matnois, Kohuna, Shabagvulim, Prakim, Tes, Yud, and Yud Aleph. Pedic Test, our first chapter, is going to be telling us all of the dinim regarding what we call the Matanois. Interestingly, we're going through the sugya of all of the 24 Matnas Kohuna, even though the Rambam, as he said in the beginning, is specifying many of them in their correct location. But we are nevertheless, we call one of the Chavdalit, which is the mitzvah of giving from every kosher behema that we shecht, as we'll see in a moment. The Zroya, the right forearm, the L'chayayim, the jaws, we'll see how much that includes. That's a very big gift. And the stomach called the Keva, Zroyayim, L'chayayim, and the Keva, that's called Matanois. Pedic Test is going to have 22 halachas, and let us start. Halacha Aleph says that Rambam mitzvah say there's a positive commandment. Litain kol zoiveach behema tohira. Whoever is shechting a kosher domesticated animal. So we're speaking about animals in the category of oxen, sheep, and goats. To gift to the kohen the following three parts: the zroya, the foreleg, Halechoyayim, the jaws, and Vahakeva, and again in the stomach, that's called the keva. In English, it's called the maw. And Shenemer, as it says, quoting a pasuk in Parsha Shoftim, V'zeyiyah mishpat ha'kohanim, and ve'elu heim hanekroyim matanis b'chol makom. Again, the word matanis really could include all of the chavdalid, but whenever we specify matanis, we are referring to this gift. Says that Rambam mitzvah zu leheges tamid bein bifnei abayis bein shaloi bifnei abayis. Furthermore, that Rambam paskins that ubechol makom, that this is applicable everywhere, meaning not only in the Holy Land, bein b'chutz la'aretz. What is excluded from the matanos is consecrated animals, but only ubachulin avoloi b'mikudoshim. And again, just to point out, we mentioned this a couple of parakim ago, that there were some Gedolei Yisrael that were careful to follow Kipsak Rambam, but most of us nowadays, we have Heterim, like we mentioned, B'chutz la'aretz. There is one Tana that holds that there is no obligation to give these gifts outside of Israel, Rabbi Eloi, and we follow Rabbi Eloi, at least most people, and even Ba'aretz, there are other Heterim that people look for. Why do they look for Heterim? I don't know, but the fact is that this is not the most common gift that people are familiar with. The Rambam is paskening that it's everywhere. Bein b'fnei abayis, bein shaloi b'fnei abayis, bein ba'aretz, bein b'chutz la'aretz. Halacha beis. Now, kol hakochim shekodam mum kavua lehegedeshin v'nivdu, that if prior to someone's consecrating of their animal, there was already a permanent blemish, which means that kedushas haguf was unable to take hold. True, the animal was mukdash, the kedushas damim. The animal has to be redeemed. The money has to go towards that type of sacrifice. But since there was never kedushas haguf, after the animal is redeemed, it goes back to being mamish chulin gemurim. So as we'll be learning a lot soon, that normally something that has already consecrated the kedushas haguf for the temple, it never gets fully redeemed. There's always going to be, for example, an isur of giza, an isur of avoida, but not in this case. So now that you redeem it, since it becomes chulin gemurim, chayavim ematanis. But im chodam mum oivelegdation, or if there was a blemish, that's a passing blemish prior to consecrating it, or here animals that will be imbued with kedushas haguf, even if and when they will be redeemed, because later they got a blemish that is of permanent nature. Now, indeed, even after you redeem them, they're not chulin, and therefore, like we said, there's still an isur of sharing it. There's an isur of doing work with it, and many other isurim even after you shecht it. We'll learn that these dinim later. You don't sell its meat the way you sell ordinary chulin dekamit. Halacha gimel. Now, we said hegdish is exempt. So what happens if an animal is a suffix b'char? Here the Rambam says you have to give matanos mikol tzad. We call that mimonavshach. Because if the animal indeed is a bechar, so then kol l'koyin. If it's not a bechar, so it's not holy. So then matanois of l'koyin. Now ve'im nestapik b'shnayim. In other words, you have a shepsela that never gave birth before, and it gave birth to twins. So now you have two animals. One of them is vadai bechar, must be, and has to be given to a kohen. You don't know which one. So here the din will be that the weaker one is going to be the one given to the kohen, because the owner can argue, and the other one, the better one, remains in the hands of the owner, but he cannot shecht it until it gets a blemish, because when it comes to a yisurim, you have to be machma. So now, if you had such a doubt, and the kohen went ahead and he took one of these two, very interestingly, here the owner can tell the kohen, you took one? Why? Because asu oisoi kimi shezacha by hakohen on the sunny b'mumi leba'alav. A very interesting concept. No, it's really the kohen has to be given only the weaker animal. When the kohen grabs the better animal for himself, it's ki'ilu the kohen is telling the owner that I get to keep the weaker, but you have to give the stronger, the better one. From there, you have to give the matanos. You know what? I'm going to take the better one. And that will be in exchange of the matanos of the one that you're keeping. And as we will see soon, the matanos is chulin. The matanos may be gifted by the kohen to anyone. Anyone can eat it. And therefore, ki'ilu the kohen gave it back to the owner. Very interesting Allah. Now, all of that is when there is this miman avshach. Because if you have a doubt whether the animal is a bechar or not, so again, a bechar has to be given to a kohen. And if it's not a bechar, at least the matanos has to be given to a kohen. But if there is a question regarding meiser behema, now, whether it's meiser or not, now meiser behema is not gifted to the kohen. It's taka holy. The owner is the one that gets to bring it as a carbon. The owner is the one that eats it, all of the meat that is allowed to be eaten, as is by every carbon shlamim. So here, pratim mikol market. Because really, will the kohen get matanis? Well, I'll tell you, if the animal is not a meiser behema, then the kohen will get the matanis. If this animal is a meiser behema, the owner keeps the animal and he doesn't have to give the matanis because it's hegdish. So it's a normal doubt. And by a doubt, we always say, like we mentioned, you were magdishit, and the kedusha saguf was chal because it had no blemish. Later it got blemished. Now it was redeemed, and therefore we said because there is still some kedusha in it. And now what happened? Now it got mingled up, mixed up with other animals, and even achaz b'meyom, which is a ratio that normally you would say, like by truma, it would be bottle. Zakt and Rambam like this. This man should call behema mehem le'echad. They all belong to one person. Can you imagine? There is only one animal that is exempt from the matanas. There is 100 that are chayiv. Every time the owner takes an animal and shechts it, he can say that this is the one that's holy. This is the one that had a moon before. And therefore, kulam paturim, because you call echad safek, we still say hamoitzim chaverei olavarayim. Now, guys, what happens if this same owner ends up shechting all of them? Well, he definitely is chayiv one. But if now taka poited matnas achas behem bilvad. So now, in other words, he will have to give from every single one other than a one. Understand? Because you own all of them. There's only one animal in this 101 animals that are exempt. You cannot end up keeping all of it. The point is that if you're taking one out, you're shechting one, you can say on whichever one you took out the first time, this is the one that was exempt. Halachei. And the same thing would be if you're giving it to other people, yeah.
Can you do a harama like this?
I know, Danny, that they do a harama now. I don't know what harama they do. I just know that even in the Holy Land, Kishitas Rabbi Eloi, it's not common that people give this matanas. I think they do another haram. They cannot do this haram because you're not allowed to be magdash anything nowadays. There's no base hamikdash yet. Because if this guy's going to sell it, if he's going to sell it, every buyer can say, I bought the one that was hegdish. Right. Halachah.
And do we know what the consequence is for not giving them matanas?
The Rambam is going to write. It has to be behema. Behema we mentioned. There's 3 animal types, and that's shoyer, oxen, and seh here refers both to sheep and lambs. And kalayim haba mikeves ve'etz. So here chayv matanas. Why? Because mimanashach. Whether you follow, this whole question, whether you also follow zera ha'av, im choshishim l'zera ha'av, whichever way you're going to turn, both parents are chayv. But koi is a suffix chay, a suffix behema, even though it's a suffix. And we just had in the halacha dalit how on one hand we can be so lenient, but here the halacha is mafrishin mimenu kol matanis. That's what we paskin. Now, what happens if you have a tzvi haba eizvi yolda? Just laha'il, how you interpret a koi from this location, unlike other locations. It seems like, not it's clear, the koi here of the Rambam is not the crossbreed of a chay and a behema. Clearly, here the koi will be, let's say, the buffalo, because here the Rambam was putting in another category. That if you have a tzvi, abo halo eis, the key will be over here that the father is the chaya. Look at this then. So again, that by animals you follow zera ha'ein, there's no doubt. There's a whole sugya in Shas whether you're also chayish l'zera ha'av. So the halacha will be havlat chay b'chatzi matanis. Shenemar im seh afilu miksa seh. How great is that? Avol, however, if there's a tayash, if there's a male goat that is having that made it with a deer, you zikr follow the mother. And if you're going to follow the mother, only the mother, then it's going to be p'tur legamri. Like we said, there's an unresolved question whether you are also chayish l'zera ha'av. So here, there's only one sad. And if you're not chayish l'zera ha'av, it's going to be completely exempt. So here, the Rambam paskins that havlat pater min hamatanos. Halacha vov. Echad ha'shoichet l'achilas adam. Oya ha'shoichet l'achilas goyim. Look at this. Unlike we learned in the prasugi of Chalam, that if you make a dough, you feed it to animals, it's completely exempted. Here we don't say that. Or if you're shechting an animal, only lachilas haklavim. Or if you're shechting an animal, only the refuah. All of these cases, you're chayv in matanas. Halacha zayin. Even though it belongs to more than one person, you're still chayeves, because it says in shreiftim in the plural, zoif chayazev. Halacha you purchased an animal with produce of Shmit, which you should not have. Nevertheless, you're still chayv matanas. It's not hagish. However, if the animal belongs either to Kahanim or Levim, they are p'turim in matanas, because it says clearly me'es ha'am. Now, safek heim halavim im heim b'chlal ha'am ha'enu. It's not that we have a certainty throughout Chazal whether Levim are for sure not, but there's a doubt. And furthermore, since it could be that the Levi is Bechlal Ha'am, so if a Kohen chap the matanis, which he shouldn't have done, but once he did it, then Hamaitz Mechaver goes in the other direction. Then what Yachzer, Halacha 9. That a Kohen is exempt. That's why the Kohen is exempt. But if you have a Shoichet, but his job is to be the Tabach, all he is doing is he's shechting animals in order to sell them in the market. So we want to make sure, we want to halachically establish him as a vendor of meat. Now, if he never did that before, if he doesn't have a storefront, but he's now becoming the vendor, he has to establish a chazaka. So then mamtinin loy shtayim v'shalish habasos. And once 2 or 3 weeks, for the first 2 or 3 weeks, he gets to keep all of the matanas for himself. But at a certain point, we know where there's 2 and 3, there's always the question. If it's 2, why do you have to write 3? And if it's 3, how can you say 2? Obviously, there are different cases. But whatever the case is, 2 or 3, he has to give it to other kohanim. In other words, once just a din, once you are a halachically established tabach that's moicher l'shuk, then you are like a Yisrael Gamur, even if you, the business owner, happens to be a kohen. But then you don't even have to wait till 2 or 3 weeks. You have a storefront that's established enough. And furthermore, the guy can claim, hold on, I'm a kohen, I get to keep it. No. This is a Yisrael. He's shechting either for a guy or he's shechting for a kohen. So in halacha vav, right? We learned before that if you're shochet la'achilas goyim, you're going to be chayv b'matanos. Here, the animal is not yours. That's the pshat. You don't own it. The animal belongs to the goy. The animal belongs to the kohen. Your job is to shecht. Goy is not obligated in the mitzvahs. The kohen is not obligated in the mitzvahs. The shochet is just a shechting. Now put him in a matanos. Another thing. Here we go. So now the question is the part that belongs to the Yid is chayiv. So tzarech sheyirashem chelkai kidei sheyaniach hamatonis bechelek hakoyin. So like this, if there was no clear markings on the animal as to what part belongs to whom, really the fact, in other words, if everyone owns a little bit of everything, midoiraisa, no one has to give matonis. Midrabanan yechayv in matanos, and that's only because of marasayim. And therefore, if you mark markings on the animal, which is what people did when they owned animals in partnership, so people will see they have these markings. They'll understand that you mark the animal, which part is mine, which part is yours. As long as it's known that there's a partner, then people will understand you're not giving them matanos because your partner is a kohen. Lefikach. If the kohen is standing with him, the mitbachayim, and he's doing the business with them, then you don't even have to make a marking. Because again, as long as people know that you have a partner, a kohen, you are exempt. Now, same thing would be also. If the guy is a partner, there ain't a tzarech l'rishon. Marasayim, people might not know you are a partner. So it's an interesting halacha. Shestam goy, marbe b'dvarim, they speak a lot, and he's going to notify everyone that he's a partner here, even if he's not there while he's selling it. So there is a presumption that more people, the kohen will be tzanua, the guy will be notify everyone he's a partner in that Jewish business. As long as people know that there is a partner or guy, then there is no chatzi chayiv. Then the yid is completely exempt. Halacha yud aleph. Hisni imaya kohen, that I'm a shutev with you, but not in the chelik of the matanos. Well, if that was the deal, then the matanis have to be gifted to a kohen. Now, you don't have to give it to your partner, but you have to give it to any kohen. The way many understand the middle of Yud Aleph is now we're speaking about a case where a kohen owned the animal. The kohen sold the animal to a yid. And when he made the sale, guys, halkop, the kohen told the yid, I'm selling you the animal aside of the matanis part. You understand what the kohen did over here? So if he said chutz, well, and indeed they belong to the kohen. Now the truth is the yid is not losing anything. He made a purchase. Once he's the sole owner, he's chayiv to give matanis anyway. What the original owner accomplished is that he will be the recipient. But if the kohen tells him, I'm selling you the animal, I'm not keeping for myself, but I'm making a tanai, al menash matanis shali. That type of tanai is ineffective. And therefore he may give it to any kohen that he wants. He made a tanai. Says that Rambam, afal pisha hisna imo shehem shaloi, liniftem en matanis. No, there is a chiyuv. Because Shomer Amanas doesn't mean that he kept something back. He made the sale is the whole animal is sold to the yid. Just because he made such a condition, it's ineffective. If Lachatchila, the kohen who owned it originally, kept back the matanis, then it was always the kohen's. And there's nothing for the yid to give. It doesn't even own it. Almanas means I'm selling it to you. I want for a condition to happen. Well, the Yid says, if I own it, I get to give it to whoever I want. Maybe a saldera chamasna mashakosav atoyr. Halacha yud beis. Hoya kohen shutut b'roish. If he only was a partner in the head. Interestingly, now the head is an aver. You can't live without it. But we don't say that he's a partner in everything. Taka, he's spotted him in halachi. Even though, as we'll see later, the lechi goes down into the makom hashchita, but it's part of the head. But the yid, who's the sole owner of the body, is going to be chayiv both on the zroya and on the keva. Or shutav biyad, patam in azroya, but chayiv in the other two. Shutav b'bnei ma'ayim, patam in hakeva. Avalei hakoyen, harei avehem kol shali, and only the head is yours. Here also chayiv b'lechi. The way we view it is shadavar hachayiv who exclusively of the yids. Halacha yud gimel. So if the animal was slaughtered prior to the giyur, even though now he has in his possession kosher meat, he is spotted because the chalois chiyuv was while he was a goy. It happens during shchit. If it was shechted achash chayiv. If you have a doubt when it was slaughtered, which is normal, he went to the mikveh and you don't know when they shechted the animal, now potter. So why? As we have been learning, shamitz mechavere olavarayim halacha yudal. Here we go, Danny. So what happens if they didn't separate it? First of all, it's not like tevel. Muter lechel mimeno. She'einu deim el tevel. She'harei matnois kuhuna muvdalin, because they are separate parts of the animal. When it comes to tevel, prior to your separation, potentially any part of your pile could have become truma. So God forbid, if someone eats any part of this product, well, that's called tevel. Here, the Torah told you exactly what has to be given. So first of all, the other parts of the animals, they're not mixed. Furthermore, but the matanis, has to be given. The matanis themselves, another detail. Unlike truma that's holy, unlike challah that's holy, it's only a financial gift. The moment the kohen gives you the shus, you get to keep it. But without his reshus, or for that point, you ruined it, or you sold it. Listen to this. Because exactly to whom will you have to pay? Who's going to collect it? Reuven HaKoyen. I'll tell Reuven, I wasn't planning to give it to you anyways. If there would be only one coin in the world, then there would be a Taveh, but there's no one coin in the world. Furthermore, the guy that buys it, he's allowed to buy it. Why? Because the seller, through selling it, did an act of gezela, and it was acquired by the seller. There is no kedusha in that part. So all that happened over here is that the seller stole money that belongs to a kohen out there. Okay? There's very little consequence. Consequence in a human court. Now, if a guy tells a butcher, and in the b'nei ma'ayin were the matanos, and the moicher did not separate it, the lekeach paid the money. Well, the lekeach got the ma'ayin, which includes all of the four stomachs, including the keva. So noisam lakoin, and he cannot say, "Ooh, I'm going to pay you less money." No, I bought the b'nei ma'ayin. You got the b'nei ma'ayin. But if he paid per pound, then the buyer cannot eat the keva. The moicher did not mean to steal it. So there was no gzela here. Whoever has it now has to give it to the kohen. And now the buyer tells the tabach, listen, I paid you X amount per pound. You told me there's 15 pounds. Really, there were only 13 pounds because the keva weighed 2 pounds. And he'll deduct it from what he has to pay him. Unlike if the moicher sold the lekeach specifically, the keva, you understand? So then the moicher is the gazlan from kohanim out there. Halacha tezayin. Hamashalech basal lechaveda. And v'hoya boy matanos. Now here's the word. Ein lechoishes shema aver zeh ugezolan. In other words, you have to remember the following: that there's no kedusha in the matanos. That means, my friends, if you own an animal nowadays, right? Let's go with Shitas Rambam here, and you shech the animal. If a kohen, we made a shechita a couple of weeks ago. If Ido Cohen, let's assume he's a kohen, I'm sure he's a kohen, would come and say, guys, I'm giving you back the matanos. Thank you. I'm giving it to you. Then we would be allowed to eat it. So another thing, when you buy the matanos, you don't have to think worst case scenario. You can think that the shoichet, the owner, the original owner, had an understanding with the kohen. Could be he gave the money to the kohen. But Makim she'ein boy koyin, then ma'ala hamatanis bedomim v'oichlan mipnei hefsed koyin. You bought it. It's not that you have to give it. You have to take the money of the matanis and you have to give it for kohanim and to anyone that you want. So it's almost like you're forcing the sale. It's very interesting. Now, why don't you have to give the matanis themselves? I also think because we said before, even if the guy was a gazlan, if the guy's intent was to steal it from the kohen, then the lekeach acquired it. The sin is on the hands of the seller. Halacha Yud Zayin. You can give them, but you can give the matanis to the max of 4 kohanim. Every kohen is going to get 1 chelik. People say, what are you talking about 4 kohanim? There's only Zroya, L'chayayim, and Keva. As the Rambam will explain, the L'chayayim means both jaws. We view each jaw as a separate gift. You don't have to give all 3 or all 4 to the same, but you can give a Zroya L'echad, the Keva L'echad, and the L'chayayim, the jaws, can be given to 2, again, because you give 1 jaw to 1 kohen and 1 jaw to another kohen. Even though, what do you do with the tongue? You cut the tongue in half. We'll see. It's a very chash of a gift. As it says, titem loy means sheyeba kedei matane. That's an ishke matane. If you give less. However, that he can't cut, let's say, this royan to half. If you're giving it from the animal that we shechted here and eat ourselves, you understand? It's a little shepsela. But if it's a ox, then now, again, how many pieces? The Rambam cannot put a limit. As long as everyone is kedei matana. I'm sure this has a lot to do with, toli bizmano b'makim. How do you consider chashuv or not chashuv? However much it means. Halacha yutches. Now, let's go to define better these 3 animal parts. What's the zuraya? I know the word zuraya means the right foreleg. Yeah, but from where until where? So it says zuraya shel yamin. Min ha-perek shel arkuba. Perek arkuba is the lowest part of the animal, the one that at the end you have the hoof. From there all the way until the shoulder, ad kaf shel yad, which really the Rambam writes, you have 2 parts, mo'ura zeh bozeh. What's the final one is it has no value. We're talking about the top one and the middle one. That's the chashuv meat. What's the lechayayim? So again, it's both jaws. Min ha-perek shalachi. Well, that's easy. The jaw bones, we know how to define. Now, if you remember, not long ago when we learned Hilchos Shchita, when we were learning about what's the top point. Remember Hagrama? Hagrama is you can't shech the animal beyond the right place. So there is above and below. In the kanem, you have the tabas gedoyla. That's the area from where you can start shechting above. The lochayayim goes until the tabas gedoyla. Min ha-perek shalachi ve'at pika. Shal galgeres, the pika shal galgeres is the tabas hagedoyla, and all of the tongue that's in that location. Everything goes to the kohen. So again, the Rambam says that you can give the lichoyayim to 2 kohanim. This time it means that you take the tongue and you cut it in the middle, and you give the half of the right with the jaw of the right and the left to the jaw of the halacha yutes. The tongue that we had by Ito Cohen's house was a very little tongue. It was very disappointing because the whole behemoth was little. Halacha yutes. Ein moilgen oisei. Don't pour boiling water on it. Right? The aim of sheet and oisem, don't remove the hide. Elo yinasru loy ba'oidan ubet samram. Yinasru loy, give it to the kohen with the hide, with the hair on it. The keva, give it with the chaylev on it. Ukvanu haga kohanim laniach chelek hakeva libo olam. Halacha chaf. Hakohenes. You're going to find this in no other place. Not only can she eat the matanos, but even if she's married now to a Yisrael, not only can she eat it, you can give it to her. The Gemara says Rav Kahana, who married a Bas Kohen, people gave him the matanos. I don't think you have this in any other Chavdal Bas Kohana. It's a good trivia question. When you have a Bas Kohen that gets married, for what halacha does she mamish maintain her status of being a kohenes, that she can be the recipient, even though that means halachically, so if you're going to give it to her, you're giving it to the husband, and you can give it the matanis to a Yisrael because of his wife. However, that's if she's a bona fide kohenes. But if God forbid she became a halala, so then no ein eicheles. Ein eicheles again doesn't mean she can't eat. A Yisrael can eat it. It means you cannot gift it to her. Why? She ain't halala machlal kohenim. Now, the im rotza kohen limken amatanis, or if the kohen wants to give it b'matana, and even if he wants to give it to a goy, even if the kohen wants to feed it like kalavin, Michael again she'ein bohem kedusha klal. Allah chafal kohen shalechavedim that are giving him the matanos. Im rotza lezakos bohem liyisrael chavedos. So this kohen who is going to be the recipient would like to pass it on to his friend, as we just said, even if his friend is a Yisrael, the din is, not only can he do it, he can do it even before him getting it. It's like a Meshulach giving what you plan to give him prior to you giving it to him. It's already so much his, he's already giving it to someone else. Imagine. A kohen can give it away prior to him getting it. However, the recipient, like it's crazy. Only if he's mamash poor. He's bedoichak, he doesn't have money to buy meat. So that's the way you're saying, the kohen says, anyways, I'm getting the matana, you take it. The kohen should be chaveiroi. Chaveiroi means they are of equal setting, and not that one works for the other. Like the Rambam says, the kohen who's passing on his gift prior to getting it is the shamish of the Yisrael. So really, he's like buying him off. Like I'm giving you a fringe benefit. Or the opposite, the kohen, because then we might have a scenario where the Yisrael is forcing the kohen to give it to him. Guys, the rule is, I know the force. When people consent is consent. Means once the kohen has it in his possession, even if he's giving it to his boss and the boss was pressuring him, that's called he gave it. He didn't have to do it. But to pass it on before I'm getting it, for that, they have to be chavedim, meaning that the relationship, there's no power in the relationship. No one is over the other. And the final halacha, you guys came on perfect time of the final halacha Yichot Beis. A kohen should not grab these presents. And not only that, he should not even ask for it verbally. It's not nice. If he's being given these gifts b'chavoid, then he should take it. And more than that, what used to happen is that when many kohanim went to the slaughterhouse hoping to get the matanos, you know what happened? The modest ones, the people that had tznius, they did not take. That's the way the world works. That's the reward of you being tznuah. You're not going to get. And the gargorim, the fresses, they would chop. Now, and not first of all, that means which is a compliment, but very few people know here that he's a kohen. Now there is a communal obligation to make sure that he gets it, because it's important. If people see people coming, kohanim coming to take this gift, and some of them don't take, you know what the observer, the ignorant observer might think? He's not taking, not because he's a normal human being, he's edel, he's a tznuah, because maybe he's not a kohen. And you don't want forever for there to be a question mark when someone is a kohen, whether they're kohanim. It should be known, shu kohen. Now, when the kohen gets these matanis, they should eat it in a dignified way. What's a dignified way? So the way kings used to eat meat is that they would put mustard on it and roast it. This halach at the end doesn't have to be done that way. If today you eat something chashiv by barbecuing it or by putting it, making it into a steak, whatever, don't eat it in a way where that type of eating is only done when people are shopping fast food. You want to give kavod even though there's no kedusha. It's a gift of the kohana. Roasted with mustard, because it says lemashcha. Lemashcha means for distinction. For distinction means eat it the way kings eat it. And again, just to know, the halacha is that the concept we apply today, but lav dafka is the most chashuv way to eat with mustard. When a person goes over here in LA to Shiloh's or to Pat's, right? When you order the $400 steak, the little steak for $400, they don't give you mustard. They give you some sauce, which is probably cheaper than mustard. and you pay for this, or whatever it is. Whatever is considered chashuv. All right, today's second chapter. It's Kabbalic. Today's 3 chapters. Every chapter is a standalone chapter. Now we're going into the gift that's called the Reishis Hagez. It might be foreign to some of us because we don't own animals, at least not yet. Sheikh is coming, things will change. We're going to have other occupations. Forget about the stocks and the bonds. We're going to have the Shep Salah. And so there is a mitzvah of giving from the first shearing, right? This is only obviously on sheep, even though people used to make garments from goats here, but that's called a sak. It's not chashuv. You have to give some of it to kohanim of your choice. So let's go. Perek Yud has 17 halachas. Mitzvah asay litan hakoyin reishis hagez. The first of the shearings of your animals, as it says, the reishis geis soincha titem loy. Now, halaviyim, interestingly, we just had in the previous chapter a question whether Levium are b'chlal ha'am or not. Here we paskin that for this, Levium are part of Yisrael. So if they own animals, they're also obligated to give their reishis hagez to the claim, which is similar to a Levium having to give truma of their meiser. How much do you have to give? Biblically, the minimum amount. Give the guy a little strand of hair to add to his beard. So no, that you cannot give less than 1/60th. This is the third time we had it. Who remembers? We had this by Peah. Where else do you have a 60th? I think it was Bikurim. Now we have Reishis Hagez, Midrabanan, the minimum amount. That I know. Well, Echad B'Shishim, very good. Echad B'Shishim is not Shishim. Echad B'Shishim is from 60, you're giving 1. That's called the ratio of 59 to 1. Very good point. Maybe that's so. In other words, if you would give less than that, then it's garnished. Let's go Batal B'Shishim. Like, what are you giving? Very good.
60th of what?
Of what you have. We'll see. From the sharing. Now we're going to go into many details soon. In other words, if a person only has, there has to be, I'll just go ahead and, you have to have at least 5 animals, and every animal has to have the weight of 12 saloim, at least, which means the minimum of 60 saloim from the 5, then you have a chiyuv to give midrabanan a 60th of that. In other words, if you have less than that, you don't have enough to be chayiv to give. We'll learn. Let's gonna get ahead of ourselves. Everything is clear. It's one pedic with all the prat. The ein on the heges elevated Yisrael. You have to push it. Hashem should bless us with a better memory. We all have good memories. The question is for what? We should remember these things. We just learned in the previous chapter. Like every matana has different rules. Previous chapter was bein ba'aretz, bein b'chutz la'aretz, bein b'zman habayis, bein shalei b'zman habayis. The matanis. There's no only in Eretz Yisrael, but not temple related. Bein b'fnei habayis. And even prior to the building of the third temple, mamish like reishis dagan, like the mitzvah of truma, which we learned, it's midoiraisa only ba'aretz, but it's not related to the bayis. The noyeg b'chulin, like we had in the previous chapter, but once an animal is consecrated, now if it's consecrated, not only does hegdish not have to give it, but we're going to go through what we learned in the previous chapter. Sometimes you're magdish an animal, and the animal is unblemished, which means it has kedusha saguf. If it then gets blemished, even though you have to redeem it, the animal is not fully chulin. V'haraya, you cannot share it, you cannot work with it. So that also is going to be exempt. So let's go. And now that it belongs to the Bedek Habayis, do you have to redeem it and give it to the Kohen? It's a very interesting way, the way that Rambam writes. You see, he's not saying you don't have to. He says, you would think. It's a rhetorical question. I wonder how many other times that Rambam writes this way. He was in an interesting mood when he wrote this. I don't know how to explain
How
this.
do you introduce this to the rights?
And the son, you say, the Bedek Habayis is going to sell it. So now you would think that if the Bedek Habayis shares it, do they have to give? No, they don't. More than that, you consecrated an animal and you told the Beis HaMikdash, I'm giving you the animal, but not the sharing. Sharing is still mine. So the Beis HaMikdash went ahead, they shared it, and they gave you back the sharing. You would think you're chayv reish hagez? No, you don't, because the animal is not yours. Because we mamash had this in the last chapter. If kadam mum kavua like deishan v'nivdu, that means that when you consecrated them, they already had a blemish, my friends, which means they never got kedushas haguf. They lechatchila only got kedushas namim. Therefore, when you redeem it, they go out lechulin legamrei. Now you're chayiv. But if Kodam Megdesh and Esmuman, you consecrated them for the Mizbeach, not Derek Habayis. And then they got a blemish, and you sold it. But there's still a vestige of Kedusha. These cases, because they're not mamashchul and halacha dalet. From the three, unlike the previous chapter, all of the three behemoths, here only kavas and mulvad, only sheep, and zcharim kinekevas. Both, not nekevas kizacharim. See, it's kavaldik, because maybe I don't know, maybe the just like by human beings, the hair. One of the samanim of a sadis of an impotent man is that his hair is soft like a woman's. The wool of the nekevos are softer or better. I'm guessing. No, it is charim like the nekevos. Even males' clothing are fit for begadim. But every case is a case. If the wool is very stiff, I don't know who's going to determine that. But if that will be the case, if that's the objective truth, then taka accept it. Because the purpose of this gift is not money, not value, clothing. In other words, what the Rambam wants to make, that's why the Rambam, to explain this, he writes the next halach. That kiven shezicha lo yakodesh baruch hu batrumos. When God gave the kohen trumos, what did God want? Not that the kohen should have money to buy bread. No, you give your grain to the kohen, 2%. You give from your wine to the kohen. No, it's God is giving the kohen the ready product, even though he's making it. God gave him bread, and God gave him wine. And then God gave him the matanes, which is meat. That is chulin. And then in the temple, he gets kachim migdash. Shehem abasar shaloi. So what didn't God address yet? What are human needs? It's funny, here we're beginning with bread, with wine, clothing and shelter. So let's go with clothing. So zichol lebereshus hagez levushai. And ubegezel hager, which is a fantastic halacha, that if a person, God forbid, steals, when they do tshuva, they have to give it back to the victim. And if the victim passed away, they give it to his heirs. A convert possibly has no heirs. If a convert gets married after he converted and has kids, they are his heirs. But if not, so you have to give it back to God. Who represents God? The kohanim. That's when you machrim something, it's a way of giving gifts to kohanim. And the steyachusa that we learned about. And next chapter, pidyon b'chayros. Now all of that is taka for shelter. No, they don't have homes. So that is taka money for him to have his oitzos, ushar tzarachav. And why did God give him all of that? Because a kohen did not have a portion from the division of the land. And when we went to war, whenever we brought back spoils, they divided the spoils the way the Torah writes. Half goes to the soldiers, the other half gets divided amongst the people. There are halachas. The kohanim never don't have a part in that. So in place of, they are gifted that. The point that Rambam wants to make is he's just explaining why is it that if the wool is hard, why don't you give it to them? Because it has value. They can sell it for money. So the Rambam is explaining, no, the money comes from the gezel hagerim, chedem, and steyachuza, and pidyon haben. That's money. This is for clothing. And if you cannot make clothing, nowadays with technology, nothing will be exempt. I'm the because no matter how bad the wool is, with machinery, with chemicals today, you'll make all of the wool the softest wool in the world. Maybe. We're not biased. We don't discriminate. Doesn't matter if the tzemer is red, or if it's black, or if it's shachum brown. How great is it that in halacha there's black and there's brown? All of the goyim today are way behind us. All the cases, chai b'reish hagez. Same obligation. Avolam goes that tzemer. But if the guy, the owner, he sheared the wool, and then the genius dying it, not to dye, Baruch Dynamis, dyeing it Tinturaria dye. Koydem Shayitein, look at this, guys. Even though he meant well, when I dyed it, I changed it. When I changed it, I acquired it. So something that has Kedusha doesn't work. This is a money gift. So I shouldn't have done it. And if I did it, I acquired it. But the Rambam says, but bleaching is not enough of a shinui. And I know today in all of the dyeing plants, I know this business, and the dyeing plant, always you have to bleach it first, you whiten it, which is really getting rid of the natural dirt, and then you dye it. So bleaching it is an upgrade, but it's not a shinoi for you to require it. Putting a paint on it, then you still have to get what happens if you sheared it unusually? That means you ripped it out. You're still chayiv. Bereishis hageiz. Halacha zayin. If all of the yeshiva bachim that rip out their beards, imagine if they would have to give that to the kohen. Halacha zayin. Bereishis hageiz noig b'klayim. Oh, so guys, here's a chiddush. So what did we learn in the last chapter? Just to make a contrast. Here we said that you're only chayiv, my friends, to give it from shepsalach, from kavasim. What happens if you have a crossbreed between a goat, a kavas, and an ace? So he says, no, so what's going to be the din? So like this, we're speaking here where the tate was a shepsala. The mama was a goat, must be. We just learned in the last chapter, there's a question that the Rambam is not resolved, whether we are also chayish l'zera ha'av by animals. If the animal, the mother has to be an ace for you to be potter. So the mother is an ace. Maybe we take into account the fact that the father is also halachically a father. The father was a kevis. Since it's a doubt and it's a money gift, we can say that you don't give it. Or an animal that's a koi. So the chachamim have a doubt whether this buffalo animal is called, what category is he in? Or a batreifa. I'm sorry, in all of these cases, noyek. Wow. I take it back. You do it. There is an obligation. That's a chiddush. In other words, very good. If the tzvi hadn't made it a kizba, for sure you're chayiv. I think that the chiddush is that even if the tate was the lamb, the mother is a goat, you're still chayiv. It's a chiddush. Like you're chayiv with a kvin or a koi. You're chayiv in a treifa. Abel hagoyz is a meisa, that's when you are exempt. Which can happen. That's what people do. The animal died. You can't do the meat. You share. You're not chayiv. Halachiches. Hamafresh reishis, I guess. And ba'avad. So the din is, it's a money gift. So you have to. You are chayiv. Chayiv achayis. Achitim rakoyin. Or another din. Ha'omer kol gizoisai reishis. Unlike by challah, you have to. There has to be a separation. You don't have to separate. The guy says all of the sharing will be in this. So then you have to give.
You have to give money worth or actual?
You have to give. You have to give. No, if you lost it, since you had to give that, and you're chayiv, excuse me, then you get to give money for it. Halacha test. Because you guzzled it. You didn't guzzle it. You stole it before. He's going back before. Yes, you did. Yeah, it wasn't yours.
And lost is different. Stolen versus.
Okay, kasha. Some should enlighten us. I'm telling you, I struggle with this voice. I don't have enough background to understand that Gemara. Just to know the way it works in Gemara is you learn like a little Mishnah, and then you spend normally a lot of Gemara chewing through all this. And then you have the Rashi and the Tosfos. That's the challenge of the Rambam. This is the halacha. We're teaching it correctly, but once you go into the why, you have to really be learned to know the why. Halacha test. Halikeach geis soine shonachim. So I'm buying, you understand? I'm buying the shearing. The animal is the guys, I'm buying the shearing. I did the shearing. Why? Because I don't own the animal. But what happens if I bought the sheep, but it's different, but not for me to keep the sheep. I'm buying the sheep for the shearings. Then I'm chayiv. Even though I have to give him back the sheep, after the shearing, Shkoyach Johnny come over here. Hoyel v'hagoyzes Yisrael v'hagizoy shaloi chayiv she'ein achiv el b'shas hagiza. And b'shas hagiza, you own the animal. You have to love this nuance. Gewalt. Halacha Yud. Perek Yud. Halacha Yud. Wow. 10-10. 10-10. Halikeach geis shoyne shel chavev. Guys, halka. I'm buying, not a goy. I'm buying the shearings of my friend. So I guess if the seller says, I'm selling you the shearings, but I'm keeping some for myself. So then the moicher, he owns the animals. Hitaka doesn't own all of the shearings, but he owns some of it. So then the obligation remains with the moicher. Even if you shared it first, since the chiyuv is on the moicher, whenever the moicher is going to share whatever remained for him, he has to give from that. Because chazaka ain't other moicher matnas kohuna. But the im lo shir klum, you have to understand this. So, and you are buying the tzoin legiza from a yid. Halokeya chayav lahafish. Halacha yudal. Hoyish neminim gizam. Which is that you have Sfardik Ashkenazic. You have Giza Levana. You have some sheep that are white and some of them are brown. The Giza Shchuma. Or Giza Zacharim and Giza Nekevas. All of the things that trigger everyone. White and brown, male and female, and selling all the mices. And you sold only one. Now, what did we learn before? I'm allowed to give. We don't discriminate. But here we say everyone has to give on their own. The guy that bought only the white, we don't say since the moicher left something for him, the chiv was on the moicher. Here we consider the white as one category, and for davening we daven separate. There's the Chabad me and the Sephardic me. But enough. Verstehst? If the moicher would have sold, he has 100 white and he would sell 90. If the 10 that he kept it has the minimal amount, then the moicher is the only one that's going to have to give. Halacha Yud Beis.
The one who takes the 90 also has to give.
No, that's what we learned before. No, not he bought it. He bought only for the sharing. We learned that if the yid, since the yid is going to give, the yid is going to give.
From the.
But by medvar mamurim here, if it's all the same, the moment it's already male, female, or black and brown, white and brown, then we say that everyone has to separate. Halacha Yud Beis. Ger shenisgayer, and he has gizois. Same thing. Now he doesn't do the sharing; he has his workers doing for it. The enyadua im achalein nisgayer don't exist or emission nisgayer. The din is you are exempt. Why? It's a money. If it would be asur by isurim or machmer, by money we always say you have to prove I owe. If not, I don't give. Halacha Yud Gimel. Oh, now how many sign? See, the word sign just know is a generic word. The word sign could mean sheep. Here we know sign means land. So it's only on lands. First of all, there's a number of how much you have to own. 5. Furthermore, when you share all 5 of them, you have to have a total of 60. You have to have the equivalent weight in wool of 60 saloyim. But it's not just if I have the sum total of 60. No. You have to have from every one at least 12. And a fifth of 60. I mean, all of this is halacha l'Moshe Messina. Even though another one had more. In other words, you're getting to the sum total of 60, but one sheep only gave you the weight of 10 slime. The other one gave you 14. You're potter from Reish Zagei. Halacha Yudalad, if you have partners, and we already said partners are obligated to give it Reish Zagei, but Bamed Varam Amurim, that everyone's part equals to that. Not if together the whole thing only has 60, because then every partner only has 30.
And the weight determination was done by the owner or by a third party?
It's done by God. And if you're honest, you'll align with the emes. Weight is weight. You can't trick weight. How much does it weigh? Now, so
if you had 50 animals all under 12 slime, you don't have to give in H's case.
So Rabbi Chen is asking, to what point do we say that?
Sounds like it.
It sounds like it. L'choira, the 12 sela, Rabbi Chen, is a very minimum number. Wants to have an animal that doesn't even give 12 sela.
So the seller is 20 grams.
It's very little. It's almost not shaykh, but l'choira, you won't be chayv. Yeah. But again, if two partners own 5, they'll be exempt. Each one only owns 2.5. Halachat as well. Reishis hageiz mitzvahs v'atchila. Now you're giving a minimum amount. Midrabanan the 60th. From which part? Lechatchila give from the beginning. Reishis hageiz. But if you decided to separate from what came in the middle or from what came at the end, Yotza. Oh, guys, Chevra, we are being outnumbered, but if you include the Zoom people, then we're still 50-50. We have a lot of Sfard in there. Shkoya. Wow, once again. The Gabe counts for two. If the Gabe counts for two, then we're good. All right, right.
And Samach?
Let's go. Halacha Tezvav. Oh no, halacha. We're middle of Tezvav, guys. Hoyuloi Chamish Toin, guys. You own. Listen to this. You own 5 shepselach. Don't think it's not relevant. Mashiach, this will happen, and you're not sharing them at the same time. The Gaza is achas bulvad, and not only that. After you shore one animal, if you say shore, if shore is in the singular, you sold all of it, and then you shore the other one. Then he's thinking,
sheared,
not to share as a partner, sheared. A chassidish haircut, and then you go to Shnei Machara. They gave a chassidish haircut because there, you understand it. You don't want for the behemoth to have hair. You give a number 0. And you sleeve the pace. Notice you never own together the 60 solaim because after you shared each one, you sold it. But you owned all of them. And you're chayiv, even if you ended up shearing them one many years after the other. Someone can Google Kevan how often did they share it? Once a year, I don't know. But even if it was many years. And more than that, no, it's like we said before, white, black, brown, male, female, years, no problem. But if you did not own them together, you owned one Rachela and you sheared it.
Once a year, Rabbi.
Once a year. When you did the shearing, you only owned one. Then you bought another one. And then you sheared the other one. Even though you kept the wool, you now have 60 sela in the Emet Starfis, but you have to own the 5. That's the key. Halacha Tazai. Like we had on the previous Pedek. So the truth is, you don't have to give all of this to one client. But no, it's each one has to get at least 5 sela, not of raw wool. Raw wool, when you washed it out in the tinturaria, it lost weight because there's a lot of impurities there. And that was part of the weight. You have to give them ready to make wool. That's the magic of 5 selaim. And because in other words, don't take 5 sela and then clean it and give it. You have to give it him after you clean it, after you were malab, and after you bleached it, then it should weigh at least 5. You have to make sure that it has this weight after it was cleansed.
Rabbi, can you clarify something? We said in the beginning that you give 1/60th. That's the amount. But then we said that your minimum amount is 5 sheep. You have 5 sheep, you give it, right? And now we're giving another minimum, which is 5 selaim.
Great.
It sounds like that would be more than 1/60th of. I'm just trying to.
Very good. Okay, I'll tell you that, Danny. Danny, the numbers that we gave before are very minimum. That's what Rabbi Chaim was pointing out. If a guy has a whole herd and it doesn't amount to, the stomach, every lamb, if Kagan can Google it, gave a lot more than the minimum. So let me go like this. If I only have the minimum of 60, what's a 60th of 60? 6 sela. What? No, forget. What's a 60th?
60?
1 out of 60, 1 sela. You cannot divide it. But the moment I don't have 5 tzoyim, what am I? Schlepper, Grace Knacker, Yaakov Avinu, what he had a few hundred, few thousand.
But we said if you have 5, that you have the chiyuv. So does that mean that if you have 5, you have to?
I cannot divide it.
More than the 1/60th. Maybe you have to give 10%. So
No, you don't. No, it doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that.
He's mixing up. There's 3 separate measurements. The 60th is the minimum how much you have to give. The 12 selaim is to be able to be chayav to give. How much do you need to own?
No. The Rambam says you have to give 1/60th. Let's go back. And you only have 60. If you have the minimum amount,
right,
you're only giving 1. No problem. You're giving it to 1 kohen. From what point can you divide it to more than 1 kohen if you have for each one 5 selaim? That's the pshat.
Makes sense.
You have to see Danny's face. Danny is not macabre so quick.
Danny needs a spreadsheet.
No, he doesn't need a spreadsheet. That's the shot.
Rabbi, a lamb gives 2 pounds to 30 pounds of shearing a year.
2 to 30. Let 2 to 30 pounds.
Oh, so one saw is
20 grams. I'm
Yeah,
saying
5
it's a
sheep.
minimum. In other words, if a guy has more than the 5, he has
150 pounds, maybe.
yeah,
It's a good amount.
you can almost make some chastoida here with this. Sheyeh by kedei matonis hamoy elas. Halacha, you design the final halacha. Guys, the next chapter is great. Reishis hageiz, so is this. I'm just Reishis hageiz. Chol l'chol davar. Lefikach ani oimer. Again, amazing that you can give it to a kohenes even when she's married to a Yisrael. How great is that? When she's married to a Yisrael, and that means you give it to the husband. Because kol mashkana yishak harabayil. All the men remember that. Kamatnas behema. And Yiroi li shadin shneim echad hu. Yiroi means it's not written explicitly in Chazal. He extrapolated it.
another opinion.
Yeah, sure, but it's not clear. It's not clear in Chazal. Guys, this chapter.
It says after many years. So if you have one sheep that has, let's say, 1 in 12 selah, and every year you shear it, after 5 years, you have your 60 selah.
No, you have to own 5. But the 60, the minimum has to come from 5, and not at the same time. You have to own them at the same time.
Meaning if you have 5 sheep at
Shear
least,
one every
you have
other
to
year.
keep cheshbon.
Sure, you have to keep it. You have to have a spreadsheet.
If you have less than 5, you don't have to keep cheshbon.
Yeah, but who has less than 5? What can you do with less than 5 sheep? Who has less than 5 sheep? Let's go right. Perek Yud Aleph. It's like chickens. You have 2 chickens now. Give it a little bit. Chickens. Hello, Perek Yud Aleph. Oh, this is the big chapter. 30 halachas. This is the Perek of Pidyon Haben. Guys, this, at least some of it, thank God I still remember from the Gemara. Oh, let's go. Pidyon Haben is a mitzvah that there's moyek today, as we all know. Many people here either had the schus of doing it or they were part of it. Right? Pei Dalet Soimes, everyone knows all these things. Perek Aleph has 30 halachas, halacha Aleph. Mitzvahs, asay, there's a positive commandment, liftois kol ish mi Yisrael, to redeem his son. That is a bechar, not to the father. That's the first halach. Bechar to the mother. So a man can be married to many wives and he can do the mitzvah many times. It's the wife's, the mother's opening of the womb for the first time, as we'll see. If that was a male, then the father has an obligation to redeem it. As it says, the Rambam is quoting both a pasuk in Kisisa and a pasuk in Parshas Koirach. Kisisa, it says, Kol peta rechem li meaning God, and who represents God over here? The Kohanim. And as it says in Parshas Koirach, ach podai sifta a'eis b'char ha'adam halacha beis. Don't you dare read S, then the Gabi will correct it. Ace. Halacha beis. But the correction always comes after the mistake is made, never before. You make it before, you'll know. No, make the mistake, then you get correct.
First pasuk is about an animal, no?
Yeah, no. Both of no. Of course not. Halacha beis. First of all, the obligation is not on a woman. Why? Because only isha chayav liftos es atzmai. Who shechayav liftos es benoi? Like Talmud Torah. Another din, if abar ha'abaloi padohu, then kishiyagdil, when the child becomes a bar mitzvah, yiftas atzmain. The Rebbe's whole siyum on psachim that we didn't learn that long ago was the whole question of how do you learn pshat? Is the chiyuv l'chatchila on the father, or is the chiyuv really on the child? Elamat, the child can do it. It goes to the father with old enough kaminas and the ayin of sham. The Rebbe's gavaldik kasim. Allah again. Now, if a person wasn't redeemed by his father, and he has now a son. So who comes first? Put the oxygen mask on you first. So befedish, yiftas atzmai tchila, and then yifta benoi. But if nebach ve'eloi elikadei pidyon echad, based on this rule that you're first obligated to you, that would seem like the chiyuv really is on the son. You understand? Elama, the son can do it, you do it. So then yifta atzmai. Halacha Dalit. Guys, we have another Sephardic member. We need some more Ashkenazim over there. If you put in a chat, we're getting crushed over here. Halacha Dalit. Choyom Pidyon Haben. For you and me, it's 1 o'clock. For everyone else over here, it's Kindalach. Choyom Benoi Liftois. V'yagia Eis Lalis Lenegel. Same thing. You have to do a Pidyon Haben. You have to go to the Beis Hamikdash, and you don't have enough. How many people tell you they can't afford to go to shul on Yom Tov? It's too expensive. So either this or look how important it is. First comes that mitzvah. And look at that. Now you understand. You read psukim in the Chumash, and in the same pasuk, Hashem speaks about two different mitzvahs. In one verse, it says, "Koil b'choir bonecha tifta." This is mamash in the same pasuk in Parshas Kisisa. And then it says in that verse, and don't come empty-handed to see me. What that's that telling you. If you have to do two, you only have money for one. Which one comes first? First, redeem your son.
How about him and his son and the regal?
Redeem you,
Then the regals.
and then your son, and then the regal. That's the hemshech chapsa. Very good. Halacha hey. You make two brachas. Asher kiddush Hashem b'sois v'tzvan al pidyon ben and v'chayzenu mevarech shehechiyanu, which makes so much sense. Like, do we make a shehechiyanu when we have a child? Why? You buy a new suit? I don't know. They go explain that. You're making a shehechiyanu for the mitzvah. One of the things is that you don't make a shehechiyanu when the tzara. And that's why we, Ashkenazim, we don't make a shehechiyanu by a bris. If you're having a baby, but not shehechiyanu. We don't make a shehechiyanu for marriage either. Not hakash. No, you guys make a shehechiyanu on the talis. On the talis, not on the wife. Very important. Okay, guys, we have some women here. This is no disrespect. I'm just trying to figure out how it works. Now, what's the nusach habracha? I want you to know that we had a few years ago, there was a whole chain of events that here in Chabad Sola, many people redeemed themselves. It's very nice. Because that suffix, some people here were born during the war, and we were learning then the Sugya and the Gemara, and they were hearing about it, and they got that just to doubt they made it without making a bracha. So then if you know you were not redeemed, so you don't say, Al pidyan haben. What ben? It's for you. Lift ois habchor, and then you make a shechiyan. Halacha mitzvah zu lehagas b'chol makom b'chol zman. Not related to the temple, not related to the Holy Land. Or become a payday, how much different geld, b'chamish loyim, as it says, of peduyev ben chodesh tiftem. It is a mamish psukim and kodesh, etc. And you don't have to give kesef. You can give kesef. You can give shava kesef. As long as you're giving something that's movable, that has intrinsic value, like shkolim. And what does that exclude? You may not give land. I want you to find any piece of land here in LA that's worth 5 shkolim. Good luck. But you get change. You can't do that. You'll get change from the coin. You can't give them a slave because they are like our coins, not with documents, because documents don't have intrinsic value. Documents would mean a check. And the whole discussion by the Chassam Sofer and other recent Achrayim, what about bills? Because there was a certain time in history where instead of having just coins, so do you view a bill as a star? Do you view a bill as money? That's a question. We give coins. The impossible him, not with, I'm not talking about dollar bills. That's a good question. I'm talking about with a die, you wrote a check. Halacha Zion. Now listen to this. We gotta move. We're not gonna Kosav, la coin star choiv. Listen, a guy writes to a coin, I owe you. You know what happens? You write to a coin, I owe you, pay up your debt. And after you pay the debt, you owe the 5 slime. I owe you means you owe him. But as we pass in Shulchan that even after you pay the IOU, the money that you paid was to satisfy the IOU document. It's really not worth, but the coin received it as 5 slime. The son is redeemed because the coin is basically saying, for me, it's worth 5 slime. Noshin, if you gave the 5 slime to 10 kohanim, like we had in the previous chapters, I know many shuls, you feel bad. Which coin should I use? That's the best eitzah. If we pass it like this, invite 5 kohanim from the shul and give to every coin another coin. I don't know why no one did that. Copyright the idea. It's a great idea. I'm playing over halacha ches. Now,
Rabbi, he says on the bottom here, the Pischei Tshuva states it's not desirable to redeem one's son in this manner. As an initial preference, one should give all 5 to one kohen at one time. So
Stand corrected. But there's shalom bias. Sometimes for shalom bias, you can rely on, you want to make peace in the community. People get insulted. You're put in a very difficult position. You have 2 chaverim kohanim. Okay, halacha ches. Now there's another whole topic, which is that how do you know the guy is a kohen? Someone said that to Gra, every time he met a kohen, he gave him 5 sloim. Maybe that's what I'm saying. He gave every kohen he met, he gave his whole life to 5 sloim. Because he was chayish that maybe all the other kahanim are not kohanim. That's a big insult. You don't tell it to them, but the new kohen was very happy to get. Halacha ches. If the kohen wants to give you back the money, machzer, but and guys, this nuance, you can't give it with the intent of getting it back. When you give a gift, you have to give it. And then however, how to understand this, I don't know. Struggle with this. Cry for this. If you give the kohen a gift and you say almanas lahachzer, that's called a matana gemura. That is valid. If you don't say the words almanas, but you have in mind, the guy's going to give it back to you, that's not good. But if you give him a gift and you tell the kohen this is only a gift on the condition you give it back. If you don't give it back, it's not a gift. It means you're getting it back. It's a good, it's opinion. Because you gave it to him. Good. Halacha tes. That's how far we are from Kedusha. It just doesn't go into my brain. My brain has to be fixed. Halacha tes. Kehanim u'levim. Peturim opinion aben mikal v'chayim. What's the opinion? What's a kal v'chayim? Im patru shal yisrael b'midbar. Remember that? That's in Parshas Bamidbar, right? So we had the Kedusha of the Levium. The Kedusha of the Levium, if you remember, it was put on the Kedusha of the B'chayrim was put on the Levium. So they were able to take out that Kedusha, they themselves, in Patru, the B'chayrim, that's the Shalish Bamidbar, is Dinushif to Asatz. Halachayut. Now let's go. A Yisrael that had a relation, got married to a Kohenes. A Yisrael that married a Leviah. Many people here are married to Leviah, Bas Leviah. Even if her first child would be a male, exempt, Potter. Because here the Torah doesn't connect the tribes to the paternal yichus as is normal. No, Pater Rechem. It's all about the mother. So if she is a Leviah, she is a Kohenes, then I don't care who the father is, even though the child is a bona fide Yisrael. He's a member from Reuven, Shimon, Yehuda, etc. Halacha Yudal. Leviah that got pregnant, God forbid, from a guy. Very interesting. But not Potter. Now, I want to make something clear. The Rambam began the chapter by saying, who's obligated, the father or the mother? The father, not the mother. The father is a goy. Must mean that when this kid gets older, that's a shot. He won't have to redeem himself. But a kohenes that gets pregnant, God forbid, from a goy, but not chayiv. Why? Because once a kohenes becomes a halala, she's no longer exempted from the min. So they had a relation, she becomes a halala. So now, no, it's the more kedusha, here it goes against you. But not chayiv.
That's fascinating.
That's
so
fascinating.
The Leviah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. She becomes a halala. And okay, let me see what that means. That means that this, he's not even like a Levi, the child. And again, all of this means not about the father. The father is a goy. That when this child becomes an adult, that this child will be chayv. Halacha yud beis. Kohen shenoilad boy ben chalal. Very good. What's any woman with whom the kohen may not have relations, as we learned in Isuri Bia, which means that when the chiyuv was chal, which is on day 31, there was no father in the picture. When there's no father in the picture, so now the obligation goes on the child. The child is not chayv when he becomes bar mitzvah. Habein chayv with his atzmoi. What's the chiddush? The chiddush is that can a child ever say, I'm chayv to be paid to myself. I gave the money to my father, and my father gave it back to me. So if the father died before the chiyuv was chal, then he has to be paid himself. But if the father died after 30 days, so even though we said that since the child is born from a halala, the kohen, the father is not exempt, but he's still a kohen. So he halachically he can say, I gave it to me. And even if now he passed away,
so it seems like if a father has the obligation, then it doesn't pass to the son.
If the obligation was fulfilled, then the son doesn't have to do it. And how did he fulfill it? He didn't pay it. He's a kohen. He paid it to him. Or if you have a nachrish and a skaira while they are pregnant and then they gave birth, even though that for this halacha, we say that the child is chayev. How great is that? In other words, there's no father here because they are goy. Chayev, peterechem bi Yisrael. For many other halachas, we don't say that at all. If a woman was pregnant and she converted during her pregnancy, that baby cannot marry a kohen because that child is a convert. But here we say, no, when the mother's womb opened up, she was a Bi Yisrael. Now, what happens if you don't know? You tell me, how is that even possible? How is it possible for a woman to convert and she doesn't know whether the conversion happened prior to giving birth or not? I'll tell you how. Because one of the ways you convert, the Rambam began this halacha. You have a woman that's a shivcha that became emancipated. She went to the mikvah when she became a shivcha kananis. L'shem avdos. When she gets the shtar shichrur, she's now a bona fide Jewish woman. You don't have to give it in her hand. You can put it in a property that we say, gita v'yada boim ka'achas. Okay. So how much mechaber all over? Halacha yudal. Hanachris v'ashivcha sheyoldu. Let's start. So you have a nachris and a shivcha that gave birth, and then b'acharkach nisgayru, and then v'nishtachleru, and then they gave birth again. Is that the first omission of the womb? No, it's not. The first one was when they were going. I don't care. It's the male that opened up the womb. Even if the mother miscarried early on, a baby that is born after the fallen. So any type of miscarriage that brings upon the mother the dinim of tumas yoledes, which is if she miscarried on day 41 on, that's the halacha. Then haba achrav ena paterachem, which means it was not a big event. And guys, we learned all this in Isurei Bia pedicure, like either whatever left a woman's body did not look human-like. It looked like a fish, it looked like a grasshopper. Or if she had a miscarriage on day 40 or prior, then even though she's bleeding, she becomes a nida, but there's no din tuma yoledis. Which is very common. Sometimes you wonder. No, you don't wonder so much. It means that he's a Yisrael, she's a Yisraelis. It's the first baby, and it's a boy. We'll see also if it's a cesarean. We'll see many exceptions. I know many communities. I saw this in Brazil by the Sfardim that they ask in public, did you have a miscarriage prior? Was it cesarean?
You're making it obvious that a woman had a miscarriage.
You're not making it obvious. You ask these questions because sometimes people forget to ask these questions. And she says, no, there was cesarean. Then you say everyone is invited right away to go eat. People just hit the food because there's no mitzvah anymore.
But by the miscarriage,
yeah,
it's the first. It's a boy. And there's no keep going. Now you're somewhat, I don't want to say embarrassing. But
why is it embarrassing? They never did not have an opinion of Ben Dante. That there was a miscarriage before. Halacha tezvav. There's nothing embarrassing about it at all. Okay, but it's good to know. No, don't ask when you see they're not doing it. They're either miscarriage today, or they had a baby that you don't know of. I mean, who knows? Or IVF also. IVF, I don't think it affects.
It doesn't affect.
No, because IVF, no. If there was a miscarriage, on day 41. That's the key.
No, if the conception was by IVF.
I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think it makes a difference. That's what we're saying. If the father is a goy, in other words, even if the zed is not from the father, it's peterechem of the mother. Let's go back. God forbid, if the baby was cut up in her womb, right? They outlawed abortion, so they made this backyard abortion, and God forbid they took out limb. That's also called a miscarriage. Another thing. Now, then Shmoyne Chadoshim, whose head emerged when the baby was alive. We're speaking about the woman who's carrying two babies. That's all of these cases now. And they were both born, but one head emerged while he was alive. The head went back in, and that baby died. Then, in that act of birthing, the other baby came out that was living. The point of everything we're going to learn now is that once the far head comes out, that's called birth. And if that baby is not living on day 31, then he was the first one. The chain, or God forbid, the kishav shemes, the yotzer roisha v'uchsa. The point is that they didn't really come out. You can argue only the head came out. And then she's carrying twins or more. And the other one that came out, the brother that came out, lived. I don't care. The one that came out and lived is not the first one that came out. Not the peter rechem. The one that opened up the womb. Which means, and you should know that's negate to other than, like when a baby is born, let's say Friday into Shabbos, bein hashmashas. You can't do the birth on Friday, you can't do the birth on Shabbos. What's called birth? Not when the nurse looks at the clock. When did the forward? Sometimes you have to know that. When did the padachtoi come out? When did the forward come out? And if it's a breached birth, I think from the Gemara, it's when the roiv comes out. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But normally when it's a normal birth, the head comes out first. It's not even the head. The ratio means the forehead. Halacha, that's what they call crowning, right? You have these lashonis in America. Halacha to Zion, you have to move. So if a baby is born cesarean, and then she has a second birth that was born naturally, they're both exempt. First one, it's not minarechem. The second one, it's not the first one, even though it's the first natural birth. Halacha Yud Zayin. From when are you chayv in the pidyon? This is so important. How many times did I chap over here? The people were planning on day 30. You have no idea. It's on day 31. You count the day of the birth before Shkia, day number 1. Count 30 days. The mitzvah pidyon ben is on day 31. You have to finish the 30 days, as it says in Kodesh Upeduya ben Chodesh Tifta. Meisa ben b'toich shloshim yoyim. God forbid. Even if the baby died on day 30, or even if the baby became a treif, that means that he was diagnosed with an illness that by the laws of nature, he's not going to live a year. Now, it's not even a doubt. The kohen has to return the money. If he was alive on day 31 and then he passes away, God forbid, he was there alive, you have to give them a chai b'pidyon. And you know what? This is really sad. And if the father didn't give it, a baby died on day 31. Instead of doing a simcha, it was a tragedy. He's chayiv. I'm sure they're not going to make a big ceremony out of it, but he's chayiv to give the money. Learning this will be yoytz all the time. He gave the money prior. He's itching to give the money. He's afraid that his bnei bias will take the money and buy milk. The money, take it to you, coin. So if he tells the coin, I'm giving it to you, ma'achshav, it's garnished. You're not chayiv yet. But if you give the coin money prior to the 30 days, but you tell him this money is for after 30 days, yeah, the bnei padoi. And even if the coin ate up the money before day 31. Whenever there's a doubt, we apply the rule. And we don't know whether the father redeemed the son or not. What's the presumption? The presumption is no one does the ceremony, not the ceremony, that word. No one does the mitzvah prior to day 31, so the son is becheska shalenivna. Or the reverse. If the father passed away on day 31 or further, we say b'cheskas padim. We don't say since the father was mortally ill in the hospital, that was the last thing on his mind. That was the last thing on his mind. If the father is alive, When the baby was day 31, the halachic presumption is the father made sure the pidyon is done. What would that happen? Means a father on this deathbed will say, don't forget that I didn't do the pidyon aben, do the pidyon aben. Now we're starting with Sfeikus. From here until the end of the chapter is mamish exciting. You have to help up. It's not even complicated, but you have all doubts. Doubt number one is a man is married to one wife. His wife never gave birth. She gave birth to a son and a daughter. We don't know who came out first, which is relatively common, especially in those days. The mom is not seeing, and the midwife is not here. Forgot to say. You understand what's going on? That's called a doubt. Because if the girl came out first, you're exempt. If the male came out first, you're chayiv. That's what we're beginning. That's going to get to one wife. You're married to two wives, two men with two wives. Don't ask what's going to go on over here. So like this, the guy marries more than one wife. He deserves all of these headaches. So here it's simple. Once you have this, that's the yisoid for the next 20 halachas. Because the father can argue and the baby can argue. We can have cases where the father is not chayiv, but the baby is chayiv. That maybe my wife gave birth to a nekeva first. Safek, exempt. Now, we're not saying that the father cannot do it, but he would not make a bracha. It's a doubt. He doesn't have to give it. If he has two boys, so you don't know which one came out first, but the father knows I have to redeem. So what's going to be the Allah? Say it by heart. The father is chayiv to redeem. And if the father didn't do it, can you put the chiyuv on any of the sons? No. Because every son can say, maybe I'm the younger son. Then when the father passed away, they went to Yerusha, every son is saying, I'm the Bechor. Fine. Okay. So Yaldish Nei Zecharim, Afal Pisha Ein Yudua Emes Bechor, the father has to give Chamish Shleim Lakayin. Because he's chayiv. Now, if one of the kids dies in the first 30 days, what can the father say? Maybe the one that was born first, maybe that's the one that passed away. You don't know. If the father passed away, whether the father passed away or if the father passed away after Shloshim Yom and the father notified that I did not do the pidyon, because the father needed to do it, makes no difference whether they divided the property or not. Since they yarshin from the father, I take back what I said. If the father did not give, that chiyuv goes on the property. And not, I said wrong. And not that every kid can say, I'm not chayiv. You're right. But you got Yerusha. The father was chayiv. So from the fathers, when they are adults, they already made the division. I don't care. From each chelek, 2.5 sell. Halacha chafal. Now, a man has two wives. Neither of them had a child yet. And now they gave birth at the same time. Each one gave birth to a son. You don't know who gave birth to whom. Who cares? The father is chayiv how much? 10, right? For 2 kids. And he gave it prior to the 30 days. And as we learned before in Halacha Yudches, but he said, but he gave it before. And now one of them died with Shloshim Yom. So if he gave them both to the same kohen, so then that kohen has to give back the 5 shloim. But if the father gave 5 sela, each 5 to another kohen, now Allah flips. Every kohen, the recipient can say, oh, I got it from the baby that's still alive. Because the father never even knew which one is for which. He didn't know that. So therefore, not only but they say, one coin owes you the 5 sela. My friend the coin, not me. I got it from the living baby. Halacha chavbeis. Again, guys married to 2 wives. Neither of them gave birth. Now, guys, it's all about the 2 women gave birth. They gave birth in a dark cave. We don't know who gave birth to whom. We don't know that. There is now a zachar and a nekeva, which means the father is chayiv for one, whichever one. Or what you have after the act of birthing, you ended up with a net profit of 2 sons and a daughter, which means one woman gave birth to 1 child. One woman gave birth to twins. We don't know, even if you don't know, because when it comes to twins, could be one woman. How much does he owe? Only for one kid. Because which any scenario you're going to make, one of them gave birth to a boy first. Either one woman, it could be he owes 10 Sulaim, because it could be one woman gave birth to a boy, and the other woman gave birth to twins, the Zachar first. But it could be that one woman gave birth to Zachar, but you only owe for the first. The other one gave birth to a Nekeva. Could be one woman gave birth to a Zachar, and the other one gave birth to Nekeva and Zachar. But Vada, you owe one. There's at least one, and you give the minimum because of it's 7. You have to manage. That's really going to get fun. You have a net profit of 2 females and a male. What can be now, Jeremy? It can be that it was female, and the other woman gave birth to female and male, or the guy has 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 sons. Yeah, okay, the Gemara goes through, we have to go through all the details. There's a possibility you own nothing. I'm a man has 2 wives. Now it gets more complex. One of them already gave birth before, and one of them didn't. They're giving birth together. You don't know who gave birth to whom. You have 2 males. So the father has to give. One of them did not have a child. The part is that if one of them dies in 30 days, the father is spotted, play more. If the father passed away, since even though every child can say, I don't know, but they yarshin from the father. They yarshin from the father. The father's nechasim owes, so they have to give 5 shloim. Halacha chafei, yolda zachar and nekeva, again in the case of up 2 wives. You know what could be? It could be that the woman that gave birth before, she was the one that gave birth to the male. That now it gets even more interesting. Now you have 2 husbands, 2 wives belonging to 2 husbands. None of these women had a baby before. They gave birth in the same dark cave at the same time with the same shlamazalov, but no one knows who's from who. Now, I guess simple. We'll go from the simple to the complex. Everyone has a son. I don't know who my son is. Who cares? I'm chayiv for whichever one is my son. If they gave Nasnu and they gave they gave during the 30 days, conforming halacha yud ches, they worded it correctly. Then none of them can get the money back. But if they both gave it to the same kohen, so then the kohen owes money to one of the parents. Now, if they would owe, everyone would come on their own. The kohen will tell them, I don't owe it to you. So how do these 2 dads get the money? One writes a document allowing the other one to act as his representative. And one of them comes to the kohen and says, listen, either you owe me or I'm coming with the document. And then they divide the money. It gets even more exciting. Get 2 women belonging to 2 different husbands, and neither of them gave birth. So now, one of them gave birth to a female. Both fathers are exempt. Because each father can say that I'm the dad of the nekeva, but here, when that male becomes an adult, he was not redeemed. If you have a mevakeres, a woman that never gave birth, she was married to husband number 1. She was supposed to make the hafchana. They didn't make the hafchana. The rabbi didn't know what he was doing. He married them within the 3 months. It happens. And now she gets pregnant and she gives birth. I don't care what the doctors say. The Torah says we have a doubt who the dad is. So the question is, who's chayiv? Here again, the dads don't have to give any money. But when this boy becomes bar mitzvah, he is a bachar. He has to redeem himself. It gets even better. Now, we're going back to Allah Chavav. We're speaking about 2 women married to 2 men, right? None of them gave birth. And Yoldish then the covers the Zachar. 2 nekevas and a Zachar, you have to do the math. You know what that means? It means that even the son doesn't have to give, because even the son can argue, I was born, My nekeva came before me. Halacha chavtes. Now look at more exciting. 2 women married to 2 men, but now one of them gave birth. One of them I gave birth to. And now the yoldu shnei zachar. So simple. Zeh shaloi bichra ishtay has to give 5 shaloi. Even though he doesn't know which one is his kid, I don't care. Yoldu zachar nekeva. Even the son that becomes an adult doesn't have to give. As long as there is one possibility that the Zohar is not the Peter Rechem, final halacha lamid, Yoldu Shnei Zacharim Unakeva. This is back on case Chavtes. Means you have 2 women married to 2 different men. One of them gave birth before, one of them didn't. Now you have a net of 2 sons and a Nekeva. Zeh Shalei Bichre Ishtoi. Noisen has to give 5 salayim. She'ein niftar ela b'shtei sveikas. Here, for him not to give, he has to say 2 things. Number 1, if his wife gave a zachar, then for sure he's chayv. And even if his wife was the one that had twins, if the male came first, he's weiter chayv. So when is he going to be exempt? He's only going to be exempt if it wasn't a keva. Elam kain and yoldan a keva tchila. It's really in halacha lama, there's 5 possibilities. So in this case, because of the sveka, he's going to be chayiv.